Assassin's Promise by Thomas Woodward. Chapter 93. I looked forward, past the dappled square, now lit in the rays of the fading afternoon light. Past the parted stone gate, standing slightly askew, I saw him. A figure. Could it be? Stannon would return, I had known it. I was unsure if the prospect filled me with hope or with dread. It was simply something I noticed as the dark shape moved towards us. He moved like a wraith that had just come out of the shifting sand, his dark garments whipping about him in a sudden gust of air. "Stannon!" My words cut off, the wind stealing them from my mouth even as I shouted. Eve tensed, pulling up beside me. She fixed the lone figure with a wary gaze. Kane smiled. The boy had survived. Spitting out dirt from the sand and wind, he stepped forward, his step sure and knowing. As the path brought him to the central stone gate, he laughed. It was a genuine laugh, so rare for him. The creature that stood next to Eddie could not be considered human, surely. And yet, there was a semblance about her. Where had he seen its like? He could not quite remember. The woman was dazzling and beautiful beyond all reason. It was this that brought out his caution. He did not trust the fantastical. The young woman had hair that looked like a cross between molten gold and the most prized honey. There was a strangeness about her, though. Something alien. Move away from that creature. Kane did not ask. I will not. I held my ground, unwilling to budge. She stays with me, Stannon. I will not ask again, boy. Stannon continued his forward advance, slow and inevitable. Do not defy me. Eve moved in front of me, blocking Stannon from my path. It is not for you to decide, betrayer. Eve's words were cold like chipped ice. You are a disgrace. You have broken our law by returning here. You knew the risks, betrayer. Eve lowered her arms to her sides, a deadly calm coming over her. Stannon laughed darkly. I should have known you for what you were sooner. I crushed the pathetic guardians, who your people sent against me. You thought to lose me in time and madness, did you? I have come for what is mine. You or your people will not stop me. I remember your frail treaty, a weak, petty thing. Stannon's lips turned up in a sneer. Eve's face stormed emotions across it. I will remove you from this time. With a gesture, she raised her arm, pointing a long, slender finger at Stannon, a blazing spiral of colored light igniting around her arm. Stannon snarled and bared his teeth in fury. Moving quickly, I stepped between them, holding my arms up. Please, do not do this. Stannon is my partner. The tension held, crackling in the air for several long moments. Why do you defend this traitor? You cannot trust his like. Do not believe his lies. Eve pressed against me, trying to move me aside carefully, but with conviction. He saved my life, Eve. Stannon may be unlikable, perhaps even what you say of him, but I owe him a great debt of gratitude. Please do not make me choose between you. I held my ground, resisting Eve's urge to remove me from her path. Stannon smiled, his face splitting into a roguish grin. It was not a pretty thing. He stood with arms across his chest, waiting. Listen to the boy. He speaks truth. Stannon nodded towards me. He added a slight tip of his hat. It was unclear if he showed gratitude or was simply mocking both of us. Believe me, I want nothing to do with this stinking city of yours. If it was up to me, we would never have come here in the first place. Do not forget your crimes, betrayer. We do not forget. You will pay in blood before the end. Do not think I will forgive your transgressions. Eve's heated voice rang out against the flagstones, which echoed and amplified her words across the entire square. A pity so many of you have died out, Stannon said acidly. Are you the last? I will give you nothing. If you do not leave before the sun sets, you will meet our blades. Eve spoke coldly, her face a mask of rage. I moved to stand next to Eve, trying to soothe her anger by placing my arm around her shoulders. I hoped it would work. Feeling no immediate negative effects, I pressed on to speak. Eve, come with me. Please do not let your anger for this man change your heart. I waited. You and this creature? Oh, your taste is fine indeed, young Eddie. You don't know the first half of judging a woman, do you, lad? Oh, this will be a fine joke. Suit yourself, lad. But don't think I won't slit her throat if she threatens me again. It's up to you now to keep her in line. Stannon looked on smugly, displeasure clear in his single dark eye. Eddie, Eve said, I will kill this man where he stands. He is a vile excuse for a human. Say the word, and I will mete out his punishment now. Eve waited, tense like a bowstring about to be loosed. She was serious. Eve, ignore what he says. He's just trying to bait your anger. Stannon has promised to show me the great city of Kaibar. I have agreed to follow his orders until then. Please understand. He means no real harm. Stannon chuckled to himself at the exchange. Eddie, let's rid ourselves of this dirty city. Come on, let's move. I turned to Eve and squeezed my hand in hers, hoping to instill something. I would not lose her again, but it was not my choice to make. Eve scowled and stared daggers at Stannon's back, then turned to me and squeezed my hand once. Inakal will stand watch over the great city. I must leave a part of myself here with him. Eve spoke softly, the words not intended for Stannon's ears. I will come. She looked hopeful, her beauty pulling me in again in wonder. With a step, she flowed next to me, following Stannon. Do not forget, betrayer. The price has not been paid yet. Think of this as a brief reprieve only. Whatever, Stannon replied disinterestedly. Let's go, I'm ready, I said. Did you find our water bags and provisions? Yes, but the horse wasn't so lucky. We're never going to make it back without some other mode of travel. Turning to Eve, Stannon barked, Woman! Where can we find other mounts? Don't speak to her that way, Stannon. I kept my voice low, but I was unable to keep my anger from seeping into it. Or you'll what? Shout me to death? Stannon laughed. His mood shifted then, turning cold. I'm in charge, lad. Don't forget that. His tone was deathly serious. Something about it pushed me back, raised my hackles. Eve turned to me then. His words mean nothing to me. They are the words of a dead man who does not yet realize he's dead. I like her spunk, lad. Who knows? Maybe you have better taste than I thought. Stannon continued walking, a slight spring to his step. He hummed a low tune. It sounded like a gambling song. Eve stopped. There is a way, but it will require great trust, and it will require allowing the betrayer inside our most sacred temple. I will not do this lightly. There is a blood price that must first be paid. Eve looked dead ahead at Stannon, her eyes boring into the back of his head. It is your choice, honorless one. Looking to Stannon for a response. Stannon held out his hands expansively. I prefer to travel along the ground. If you want my blood, you must come and take it from me. The threat lay there, out in the open. Very well, Eve said solemnly. She moved in a blur, my eyes unable to follow her. Stannon had time only to rock back on his heels, before Eve was already removing her hand. A streak of blood fell from a long gash in Stannon's left arm. A dark red spot was forming on the surrounding fabric of his leather jerkin. Stannon did not move and did not break eye contact with Eve. It is done, Eve breathed. The price has been paid.